Okay, how's it going? So, wanted to talk to you today about how being sensitive is okay, but being fearful is not. I really hope this video will be helpful, especially for some of you guys who are more on the sensitive side. I am definitely one of those guys, and I hope I can explain to you in this video why that's not a problem, even though it's made out to be. Okay, one second, I gotta take a sip. It's made out to be a problem because you're told you should be macho, you can't feel whatever emotion, whatever, all that bullshit. But hopefully you'll understand my point in this video when I say being sensitive is okay, being fearful isn't. So what I mean by this is, what if you're someone who's overtly sensitive like I am, it means you feel emotions very strongly. What that means is when you are maybe overwhelmed or um, you're in a situation that's I guess overwhelming, again, for lack of a better word. You have this wave of emotions that go on you, and you feel like you can't control them. And sometimes, you may even feel so overwhelmed you feel like crying. You feel a lot of anxiety. Other signs that you might be a little bit, over emotional, oversensitive, is when you're talking to people, you can kind of feel their emotions. Again, for lack of a better word, um, and just generally you tend to have very strong emotional reactions or emotional connections to things. Okay. Now, again, this by itself, I genuinely don't think is necessarily a bad thing, or not even necessarily is not a bad thing. That's not what's going to bite you. But what's going to bite you in this life is being fearful. Okay. One thing that I've learned over and over and over again is overcoming fear is not optional, it's a necessity. Okay. And you need to find ways in your life to overcome fear on a purpose in a purposeful way. So what do I mean by this? Well, okay, let me share a concrete example. This is genuinely one of it has been one of the hardest moments in my life, to deal with, and I still think about it to this day. But this one time, long story short, there was this one really aggressive guy, and he pulled up on my sister, right? And he is like, almost got physical with her, and he lived like fairly close to my house. I wasn't there at the time, obviously. Otherwise, I would protect my sister at all costs, without a doubt. But then I went over to his house to just talk. Okay, I genuinely didn't want to fight anything like that. It's not that I'm scared to fight. I mean, I feel fear like everyone else. I'm not trying to bullshit, but I would protect my family without hesitation. But I just knew that even if I go and I win this fight and I kick this dude's ass, he knows where my mom lives. He knows where my sister lives, where all my whole family lives. Of course, we're right there. So it's probably not worth it, because I don't want to have this constant back and forth where every time I'm out of the house, I'm like worried. Okay. So I went over to his house, and then, but he just, yeah, started popping off. Like, I was just trying to talk, and he just started popping off and going crazy. And in that moment, I didn't do anything, because again, there was a million thoughts going in my head. I was like, man, if I do something, then, even if I win, what if he comes back and he attacks my family, or, does crazy shit? So I kind of left it, but that moment, and like not doing something in that moment, that always kind of sits in the back of my mind, you know. And I feel like a bitch for it. I feel like a pussy for it. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it is what it is. To this day, even though I have that hesitation, I do feel I made the right decision. I can't. Anytime, these things as adults aren't worth it, and maybe that's a separate story altogether. But in that moment, I felt fear. Of course, I did. I felt the influx of emotion, especially as someone who feels a lot of emotion. Okay, just one second. I gotta take notes. But in that moment as well, this was a few years ago now. Even though I would have been down to fight, I knew I didn't. I was scared shitless to fight. Okay. Now it's not like I still don't feel the fear. Again, I feel the fear, but that moment was a turning point for me, where I was like, okay, I need to get some fighting experience under my belt. So then I started pursuing boxing, pursuing wrestling, and even right now, it's not like I do it super consistently or I'm super great at it. But I've had a boxing fight. I wrestle at least once a week, so I'm used to physical, dealing with people physically. and that's been very helpful. And this is what I mean in terms of, if you're sensitive and all of that, it's just, honestly, even if you're not sensitive in life, you can't afford to be fearful, or rather, in life, you can't afford to let fear control your life. Okay, and you need to. So, with this example I've just given, I found a way, a legal, um, uh, you know, awesome way in wrestling and boxing where I can pursue a discipline that's hard to do, and that also allows me to overcome fear, because before every class I feel fear just like everyone else. I don't want to, get hurt, whatever. Okay, but you have to have everything in life. You'll start to notice this. Everything in life ultimately comes down to fear. If you want to go on a date with someone, but you're too scared to ask them out, that's fear. You want to, present yourself, make a presentation at work, but you're scared, oh, people are going to judge you, whatever, that's fear. You want to, pursue a job opportunity or go talk to someone who you think can give you an opportunity, but you don't take that opportunity, that's fear. And if you let fear control your life, I promise you're not going to get anywhere. This took me way too long to figure out, and now I'm constantly going towards these opportunities that make me fearful, because I understand that's the only way to improve. That's the only way to get true satisfaction in life, and that's the only way to get to your goals. So I still stand by what I said. Again, I'm emotional, I'm sensitive. I still, if somebody wants problems, we can have problems. I'm not scared of anything. I don't mean to say that in a cocky way, whatever, but this is the confidence I want to instill in you. So don't be pushed around just because if you're a little sensitive, you're a little more. Say genuinely, it's okay. It's not a problem. It's not even 1% of a problem. But stay solid and confident in yourself. Don't let fear control your life. And if you are someone who's very fearful, you get kind of shook easily, find those opportunities to start overcoming that. Like I said, for me, it was martial arts, boxing, wrestling. Find those opportunities where you can overcome fear in this tactful way. Okay, in this way that you're in this way where you're able to do something that's fulfilling, and it's also helping you overcome fear. And that it's just gonna have such a knock-on effect, because once you overcome fear in one context, you're gonna be like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then the next time fear shows its face again, you're gonna know, you can just relax and go into that situation and deal with it. So hopefully some of that made sense somewhere, but this is, right hand to God, this is one of the most important lessons I've learned, and I hope you will at least try it out in your life. I really do think it'll help you out. Living in fear is one of the worst ways to live. That was the most depressed I ever was, the most sad I ever was, the most just the most difficult life has ever been. To me, it's not even optional. You either, if you want to live life properly, if you want to have a satisfactory life, you cannot live in fear. There is no plan B, baby. Either to be frank, you live in fear like a fucking bitch, or you get up and you handle it. And sorry if some of you are offended by the word bitch. I don't mean it in a male female context. It's just a word. Okay, like, please don't um um don't overthink this. I respect all men, women, he, she, they, doesn't matter, bro. I respect everyone. So but yeah, can't have fear. That's all I gotta say.